A strong and unstoppable woman is not created by ease. She is shaped by fire, refined by pressure, and awakened by truth. She is not defined by what she survives, but by how she rises. She learns herself. She chooses herself. She becomes herself. Her strength is not borrowed from applause or permission. It is built from within, brick by brick, through courage, self-respect, and unwavering purpose. An unstoppable woman does not wait for the world to recognize her power. She recognizes it herself and moves forward with quiet confidence. A woman who knows her worth understands that her value is not something to be earned through suffering, silence, or sacrifice. It is not something handed out as a reward for obedience or perfection. Her worth exists because she exists. It is inherent, unshakable, and non-negotiable. When you truly know your worth, you stop betraying yourself to keep others comfortable. You stop accepting crumbs where you deserve a feast. You no longer tolerate disrespect disguised as honesty, neglect disguised as business, or manipulation disguised as love. Knowing your worth sharpens your discernment. You begin to recognize what drains you and what nourishes you, what honors you and what diminishes you. And with that clarity, you choose differently. She does not fear losing people who only valued her for what she gave, not for who she is. She learns that walking away is not weakness. It is wisdom. It is the courage to choose herself even when her heart aches. Knowing your worth also frees you from comparison. You stop measuring your life against someone else's timeline, beauty, success, or journey. You understand that another woman's shine does not dim your own. You no longer compete. You stand confident in your uniqueness. You realize that your path is yours alone, and it does not need to look like anyone else's to be meaningful. This self-knowledge transforms your inner dialogue. You stop speaking to yourself with cruelty and start speaking with compassion. You no longer punish yourself for past mistakes. Instead, you honor the woman who survived them. You see your scars not as proof of damage, but as evidence of strength. You begin to treat yourself with the same respect you once reserved only for others. A woman who knows her worth does not beg for love. She does not chase attention. She does not settle for half-hearted commitment or conditional affection. She understands that love should feel safe, respectful, and nourishing, not confusing or painful. She chooses partners, friendships, and environments that align with her values, not her fears. Knowing your worth also changes how you move through challenges. Rejection no longer defines you. Failure no longer shames you. Criticism no longer destroys you. You understand that these experiences are not verdicts on your value, but moments of growth. You stand firm in who you are even when the world tries to shake you. At its core, knowing your worth is an act of self-respect and self-honor. It is choosing dignity over desperation, peace over chaos, and truth over approval. And when a woman truly knows her worth, she becomes grounded, confident, and unmovable. She does not chase the world. She walks her path with quiet certainty, knowing that whatever is meant for her will meet her there. Secret 20 build unshakable resilience. Resilience is the quiet strength that carries a woman through moments she never thought she would survive. It is not about pretending to be strong while breaking inside, nor is it about denying pain or hiding tears. True resilience is the courage to feel everything fully and still choose to rise. A resilient woman does not avoid suffering. She faces it, learns from it, and transforms it into wisdom. She allows hardship to shape her character without allowing it to steal her softness, her hope, or her faith in herself. Life will test you in ways that feel unfair and unexpected. It will bring losses you did not prepare for, disappointments you did not deserve, and battles you never asked to fight. Resilience is born in those moments, when giving up seems easier than continuing. It is the inner voice that whispers, "Keep going," even when your heart feels heavy and your strength feels small. A resilient woman understands that falling does not make her weak. Staying down does. And even then, she treats herself with compassion as she finds her way back up. Building resilience means learning to see setbacks differently. Instead of viewing them as proof of failure, you begin to recognize them as preparation. Each obstacle becomes a teacher. Each disappointment reveals a truth. Each painful ending clears space for a stronger beginning. A resilient woman does not ask, "Why is this happening to me?" She asks, "What is this teaching me?" That shift in perspective turns wounds into wisdom and pain into purpose. Resilience also requires patience with yourself. Healing is not linear. Some days you feel strong, and other days the weight feels unbearable. A resilient woman does not shame herself for struggling. She allows herself to rest without quitting, to pause without giving up. She understands that strength is not constant motion. Sometimes it is simply staying alive, staying kind, and staying hopeful in the middle of uncertainty. There is also courage in vulnerability. A resilient woman allows herself to cry, to grieve, to admit when she is overwhelmed. She does not confuse emotional expression with weakness. She knows that releasing pain is part of surviving it. By honoring her emotions instead of suppressing them, she frees herself from being controlled by them. As resilience grows, so does self-trust. You begin to realize that you have already survived moments that once terrified you. You have endured heartbreak, loss, rejection, and disappointment, and you are still here. That realization builds confidence. You stop doubting your ability to handle what comes next, because your past has proven your strength. Resilience also becomes visible to others. Your ability to rise again becomes a source of inspiration. Without saying a word, you show others that it is possible to endure and still believe in better days. Your resilience becomes a quiet testimony that pain does not have the final word. An unshakably resilient woman is not one who has never broken, but one who has rebuilt herself again and again. She understands that storms are part of the journey, not the end of it. And with every rise, she becomes stronger, wiser, and more unstoppable than before. Secret 30: speak with courage. To speak with courage is to reclaim your voice in a world that has often asked you to be quieter, softer, easier to digest. A strong woman understands that silence has never protected her and shrinking has never saved her. She learns that her voice is not a burden, but a gift, not a disruption, but a declaration of truth. Speaking with courage does not mean you are fearless. It means you value honesty more than approval, truth more than comfort. A courageous woman does not speak to impress or to dominate. She speaks to express what is real, what is necessary, and what is aligned with her integrity. She stops editing her words to make them acceptable to everyone else and starts honoring what her heart is asking her to say. She understands that being misunderstood is often the price of being authentic, and she is willing to pay it. Being invisible costs far more than being disliked for telling the truth. Speaking with courage often begins internally. It starts with how you speak to yourself. A woman who practices courage challenges the inner voice that tells her to stay quiet, to not make waves, to accept what hurts. She replaces self-doubt with self-trust. She learns to validate her own feelings instead of dismissing them. Once she believes her inner voice matters, she no longer hesitates to let it be heard. Courageous speech also shows itself through boundaries. It is the strength to say no without over-explaining and yes without fear. It is the refusal to tolerate disrespect, manipulation, or dishonesty. A woman who speaks with courage does not wait until she is exhausted or resentful. She addresses issues clearly and calmly, even when it is uncomfortable. She understands that boundaries are not acts of selfishness, but acts of self-respect. There will be moments when your voice shakes, when your heart races, when fear tells you to stay silent. Courage does not require confidence, it requires commitment. A courageous woman speaks anyway. She understands that trembling does not make her weak, it makes her human. And often, the most powerful words are spoken through a trembling voice because they come from a place of truth. Speaking with courage also means telling your story honestly. Not the polished version, but the real one. The struggles, the failures, the lessons. When a woman speaks her truth, she breaks cycles of shame and secrecy. Her story becomes a bridge for others who thought they were alone. Her honesty becomes permission for others to be honest too. A woman who speaks with courage does not use her voice to tear others down, but to stand firmly in who she is. She knows when to speak and when to be silent, when to confront and when to release. Her words carry weight because they are rooted in integrity, not impulse. Ultimately, speaking with courage is an act of freedom. It is choosing truth over fear, self-respect over approval, and authenticity over silence. And once a woman fully owns her voice, she becomes impossible to ignore, impossible to control, and impossible to silence. Secret 4-day Choose Deep Self-Love. Choosing deep self-love is one of the most powerful decisions a woman can make because it changes the way she relates to herself, to others, and to life itself. Self-love is not a trend, not a surface-level affirmation, and not selfishness disguised as confidence. It is survival. It is the conscious, daily commitment to treat yourself with dignity, patience, and compassion. Especially in a world that often teaches women to neglect themselves for the comfort of others. A woman who chooses self-love stops abandoning herself to be accepted. She stops shrinking her needs to keep peace. She becomes loyal to her own well-being, even when that loyalty is misunderstood. Deep self-love begins with awareness. It starts when you recognize how often you have silenced your own needs, ignored your intuition, or stayed in situations that drained your spirit. A woman who loves herself deeply no longer gaslights her own pain. She listens to it. She no longer tells herself to be strong while breaking inside. Instead, she allows herself to feel, to acknowledge, and to heal. She understands that tending to her inner world is not weakness, but wisdom. Self-love transforms the relationship you have with your own mind. The harsh inner critic that once controlled your thoughts begins to lose its authority. You stop replaying your mistakes as proof of failure and start seeing them as evidence of growth. You forgive yourself for what you didn't know when you didn't know it. You release the unrealistic expectations that kept you trapped in shame. Instead of speaking to yourself with cruelty, you learn to speak with kindness. You become your own encourager, your own safe place, your own source of reassurance. A woman who practices deep self-love protects her peace fiercely. She no longer feels guilty for resting when she is tired or stepping back when she is overwhelmed. She understands that rest is not laziness and boundaries are not rejection. They are necessary acts of self-respect. She learns to say no without explaining herself and yes without betraying herself. She recognizes that her energy is precious and she no longer wastes it on people, environments, or conversations that leave her feeling small or unseen. Deep self-love also reshapes how a woman approaches relationships. She stops chasing affection that feels inconsistent and stops accepting love that hurts. She understands that love should feel safe, supportive, and respectful, not confusing or painful. When she loves herself, she no longer begs to be chosen. She chooses herself first, and from that place, she allows others to meet her there. She knows that the way she treats herself sets the standard for how others are allowed to treat her. Choosing self-love means honoring your body without conditions. You stop punishing it for not looking a certain way and start appreciating it for carrying you through life. You listen when it needs rest. You nourish it without shame. You stop attaching your worth to appearance and begin to see your body as a home, not a project. A woman who loves herself understands that her body is not an enemy to control, but a partner to care for. Deep self-love also invites emotional honesty. You allow yourself to grieve what you lost, to mourn what never happened, and to feel disappointment without minimizing it. You stop telling yourself that others have it worse as a way to silence your own pain. You learn that your feelings are valid simply because they are yours. This emotional permission creates space for healing, growth, and renewal. A woman who chooses self-love becomes more authentic. She no longer performs for acceptance or pretends to be okay when she is not. She stops wearing masks to fit into spaces that were never meant for her. Instead, she shows up as she is, trusting that the right people will connect with her truth, not her perfection. Self-love gives her the courage to be real, even when being real feels risky. As self-love deepens, confidence grows quietly but powerfully, not the loud, attention-seeking kind, but the grounded confidence that comes from self-trust. You begin to trust your decisions. You trust your instincts. You trust your ability to handle whatever comes next. You stop second-guessing yourself and start standing by your choices. This confidence is not arrogance. It is alignment. It is the calm certainty that you are capable and worthy, even on days when you feel uncertain. Deep self-love also reconnects you to joy. You give yourself permission to experience pleasure without guilt, to celebrate yourself without minimizing your achievements. You stop waiting for someone else to validate your happiness. You learn to enjoy your own company, to find fulfillment within yourself, and to create a life that feels good from the inside out. Most importantly, self-love teaches a woman how to love others without losing herself. She no longer gives from emptiness or sacrifices her identity to be needed. She loves from wholeness, not desperation. She gives freely, but not at the cost of her peace. She connects deeply, but not by abandoning her boundaries. Her love becomes healthier, stronger, and more sustainable because it flows from abundance, not lack. Choosing deep self-love is not a one-time decision. It is a practice. Some days it looks like strength. Other days it looks like softness. Some days it means pushing forward, and other days it means resting and letting go. But every day, it is a commitment to honor yourself, to stand by yourself, and to treat yourself as someone worthy of care. A woman who chooses deep self-love becomes grounded, resilient, and free. She no longer needs to prove her worth to the world, because she has already claimed it within. And from that place of inner security, she becomes truly strong and truly unstoppable. Secret 5E: walk with purpose. To walk with purpose is to live with intention in a world that constantly tries to pull you into distraction, comparison, and confusion. A woman who walks with purpose understands that her life is not random and her existence is not accidental. Even when she does not have every answer, she trusts that her steps matter. She knows that purpose is not always about knowing the entire path ahead, but about committing fully to the step she is standing on right now. Purpose gives her direction when clarity feels distant and strength when certainty feels fragile. Walking with purpose begins with self-awareness. It requires a woman to ask herself what truly matters to her, not what the world expects, not what tradition demands, and not what fear dictates. A purposeful woman knows her values. She understands what she will stand for and what she will never compromise. These values become her compass. When life becomes noisy and opinions come from every direction, she returns to her values to decide her next move. She does not allow pressure to rush her into decisions that betray her integrity. A woman who walks with purpose does not live reactively. She does not allow circumstances, people, or emotions to control her direction. Instead, she responds thoughtfully. When challenges arise, she does not panic or lose herself. She pauses, reflects, and chooses actions that align with her long-term vision rather than short-term comfort. Purpose gives her the discipline to say no to what feels easy but wrong, and yes to what feels hard but right. Purpose also gives meaning to struggle. A woman walking with purpose understands that difficulty is not a sign she is on the wrong path. Often, it is confirmation that she is growing. When the road feels long and progress feels slow, purpose reminds her why she began. It becomes the anchor that keeps her steady when motivation fades. Motivation comes and goes, but purpose remains. It fuels perseverance when excitement is gone and commitment is all that's left. Walking with purpose does not mean life becomes easy. It means life becomes intentional. There will still be setbacks, delays, and detours. But a purposeful woman does not interpret these moments as failure. She sees them as refinement. She understands that growth often requires patience and that becoming who she is meant to be cannot be rushed. She allows herself to move at her own pace without comparing her timeline to anyone else's. A purposeful walk is not hurried, it is steady. A woman who walks with purpose does not feel the need to prove herself to others. She does not race to impress or exhaust herself trying to keep up. She understands that slow progress in the right direction is far more powerful than fast movement with no direction. She trusts her timing. She honors her process. She knows that alignment is more important than speed. Purpose also shapes how a woman uses her energy. She becomes selective with her time, her attention, and her emotions. She no longer pours herself into things that do not serve her growth or align with her mission. She understands that every yes is a commitment and every no is an act of self-respect. Walking with purpose means conserving energy for what truly matters instead of wasting it on distractions, drama, or validation. As she walks with purpose, her confidence deepens. Not because life becomes perfect, but because she knows who she is and where she is going. Even when others doubt her, she remains grounded. Even when the path is unclear, she keeps moving. Her confidence is quiet but undeniable. It shows in the way she carries herself, the way she speaks, and the way she makes decisions. People may not always understand her choices, but they can feel her certainty. A woman who walks with purpose also understands that her life impacts more than just herself. She knows that her actions, words, and perseverance leave footprints for others to follow, whether she realizes it or not. Someone is watching her choose courage over fear, integrity over convenience, and growth over comfort. Her consistency becomes encouragement. Her resilience becomes a roadmap. Her commitment becomes proof that living intentionally is possible. Purpose also gives a woman the courage to let go. She releases relationships, habits, and environments that no longer align with who she is becoming. She does not cling to what is familiar if it is holding her back. Letting go is not easy, but purpose reminds her that she cannot carry what was meant for an older version of herself into a new season. She trusts that making space is necessary for what is meant to come. Walking with purpose requires faith in yourself. Faith that you are capable of learning as you go. Faith that mistakes will not define you. Faith that even if you stumble, you can rise and continue. A purposeful woman does not demand perfection from herself. She demands honesty, effort, and growth. She allows herself to evolve without shame. As purpose becomes a way of life, fulfillment follows.